Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. We're continuing an unofficial Mythos RPG tour this month, as we're going to, today for H.P. Lovecraft's birthday, we're going to pick up with one of the biggest games that's come out of the Cthulhu mythos, as we play Call of Cthulhu by Chaosium. Of course, Call of Cthulhu is the role-playing game from Chaosium. Well, the biggest one by far. And there's one more thing I need here that seems to have gone missing on me, so bear with me just a second. There's another copy in here. Sorry about that. One thing that I was looking for... Actually, there's one more place I'm going to look for it. Hang on. And I just found what I was looking for. So what we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to be playing Call of Cthulhu using the Solo Investigator's Handbook by Paul Bimler. Here I've got my copy on DriveThruRPG, or from DriveThruRPG. That wasn't what I was looking for, though. What I was looking for was in this book we've got a verbs table that we can use to help keep things moving along. There's a copy in there, but what I did with this was I printed it off and laminated everything separately. Laminated the verbs table separately. So I wanted to make sure I had that handy. Plus, I've got another table that I've rolled up, or that I've had ChatGPT help me put together. That's a Mythos keywords table that I can also roll on. So all it is another tool I can use in my toolbox to say, okay, I need this thing to keep the story moving along. So basically I need this thing to keep the story moving along. Or let's say I succeed on like a spot hidden check, for example, where I need to figure out, okay, I found something, or I charmed something out of somebody, or I passed a check to say, okay, we basically learned something to help move the story forward. The keywords table is going to help give me an idea of, okay, here's what I actually learned in order to help me keep the story moving along. So that's all that is. The verbs is a way for me to, is another way, it's just another tool for me to keep that moving along. So, that's all that is. Anyway, what we're going to do here is we're actually going to roll the adventure up from scratch, from generating the scenario to interacting with it. And I'll explain how we're going to interact with the scenario once we get that far. So, let's start off by generating our scenario first. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to use the generate a scenario. We're going to generate something completely random from scratch on a D100 roll. So we'll grab my D100. And as you can probably guess, the die with the 0 on it is going to be our tens digit. This will be our ones. This will also be our story direction roll when we get into that a little bit later on. So let's see what kind of scenario we're looking at here. Okay, that's a 94. So the scenario that we've got here on a 94, bodies have gone missing from the local graveyard. Ooh. So this could be anything from a, well, I was going to say a necromancer, but necromancer is probably more like a fantasy trope. Whereas in Lovecraftian, maybe somebody trying to reanimate something or needing parts for, well, there are a few different ways we could go with this. So the question now is, where did we hear about this from? So where heard? And once again, that will also be a D100. And the nice thing is, since we're playing solo, if we don't like an answer, we can always re-roll it. In this case, 9 is we're being told this directly by a friend or acquaintance. That I can work with. Directly told by a friend or acquaintance. Okay, which, given the character that we're rolling as, we're actually going to be playing as, it'll be hard to see, but we've got Silas Miller, our private investigator. I could see that, actually. Maybe it's a client coming to us. Maybe it's a client coming to us who heard something about maybe their son's body being exhumed, essentially, for some purpose. Actually, that'd be a good question to put to... Okay, hold on a second. I put myself on Do Not Disturb. I don't know why. Okay, so we've got a few different ways we can go with this. Let's see... Okay, so we're probably in a city, I would think, if we're dealing with a... So I think we're in a city of some kind, dealing with a quest like this. So we're probably starting in our office, essentially, in our PI office. Starting at our PI office, where... Okay, so... Let's see, now... Okay, so, yeah, I'm just thinking about how I want to set the scene for this scenario. So we're starting off with a private... We've got our private investigator, and we've heard... Actually, that's the first thing that I want to know is... Was this from a client? And the way we're going to interact with that is just like we did earlier. That's going to be a D100 rule, but I know there's a detail on the Oracle in here. Now I just need to figure out where it is. Ah, here we are. question answer mechanics. So it's essentially the oracle that we're using for this. So the yes or no question that we're framing is this from a client that we're interacting with in the course of our private investigator business? And I'm going to say we can also put a modifier on here if we want to, if we think either answer is particularly likely. The question is, do I think a yes or no is particularly likely here? So I'll make a note here. Oracle. I don't know if this is a client that we're interacting with. I'm going to go 50-50 on this one because I can see going either way with this, where maybe they heard something. Maybe one of the dead people's families whose body got moved heard something concerning, and they're like, and they come to the private eye and they're like, "Hey, can you make sure that our son is where they rested, is where we laid him to rest?" So on a 1 to 34, we get a no. 35 to 59 is a maybe, which in this case, I could either re-roll that again, or try a clarifying question of some kind. 60 to 100 is yes. So in this case, a 60 to 100 would mean that yes, it is a client who is coming to us saying, "Hey, their son's body's been moved." That's a 58, so that's going to be a maybe. Let's see here. So what do we want to do? So a maybe here. So where do I want to go with that? So we're not sure if it's a client or not. Well, we know it's definitely not the dead person themselves because they're not really in a position to come to us. And, well, I was going to say, they're not in a position to come into us, but what if maybe their spirit comes to us, perhaps? So, actually, that's a question that we'll put in. So we're thinking it's a maybe on the client. Let's look at it in another way. Are we awake? Because maybe this is coming to us in a dream sequence somehow. So let's try that. Are we awake? That's going to be an 80 something. And I don't think the roll there, that's an 87. So yes, we're definitely awake. So where I was going with that is maybe it would be somehow the dead person's spirit coming to us saying, hey, there our dead relative or whatever has been moved. Maybe it's a friend or something like that. But no, we're definitely awake. We're probably in Arkham as well. That's what I'll call it. I'll say we are in Arkham here. So we are in Arkham. And we're definitely awake, so this isn't a dream sequence. It's not necessarily a client. It's maybe not a client coming to us. Is it somebody? Well, let's put it this way: is it somebody we know because of the? Is it somebody we know because of the private eye, essentially being a private investigator? So no in line of work. So we'll roll for an answer on that. That's a 31. Okay, no, we don't know them because of our line of work. So that tells me... So if we don't know them because of our line of work, that rules out a lot of people. So we'd potentially deal with the police on occasion in our line of work, maybe... So in that case, it's probably not a client that's coming to us. So in that case, if it's not a client that's coming to us, maybe it's one of our friends coming to us. Let's ask this. We don't know them because of our line of work. Do we know them? Do we know them outside of work? Like, is it somebody that's personally known to us? And given that we've ruled out the line of work, I'm going to put a plus 20 on this roll because it's likely. I'm going to put a plus 20 to say it's likely. So we'll roll this, add 20, and then we'll use that to determine the result of the roll. So a 90 plus 20, yes, it's somebody we know personally. Okay, we know them personally. So it's probably a friend or a relative. So we found out from let's call it a friend for the time being. If I need to roll details for an NPC, I've got ChatGPT ready to go on my iPad to let me go, okay, I need to roll such and such a character up. So let's go with it being a friend for the time being. So we've heard from a friend that bodies are being moved, that bodies are going missing from the local graveyard, and now we need to figure out why. I guess another question that we could ask is it one of our friends being moved around? Is one of the bodies somebody we know? And that'll speak to motivation for Silas to try to find out what's going on here. That's a 7, so no, it's nobody we know. But we know who's telling us about this. So it's entirely possible that we're just getting started as a private investigator. So we're trying to figure out. So essentially, we're trying to get work, and our friend came to us with this crazy story. So we decided to go check it out. Okay, so now we're going to roll. So now we've got our scenario essentially. And we've got our scenario where we're investigating this. So how do we want to journal this? Let's say it's at 9 a.m. and we've gotten a letter from a friend saying they heard something about bodies going from the graveyard in Easttown, and we don't know why bodies are being moved, and we need to go investigate that. So let's roll for story direction. And then we're going to roll that is we're going to take the current mythos value, which right now is 0, and add it to another D100 roll. We could also elect to take downtime, but we'd have to roll to see it. Well, we'd have to add 10 to this roll for downtime if we choose to take it, but we're rolling for story direction here. So our first story direction is a 69, and 69 is danger. So we've heard about this job. We've already got danger coming at us. So now we're going to roll on the danger table for another D100 to see what happens on danger. That's a 31. So the danger in this case is that we're assaulted by an unknown thug. Oh boy. Alright, so danger, and we're being assaulted by an unknown thug. So where do I want to go with that? There's a lot of things we could do there. So I think the first thing we need to figure out is let's figure out a little bit more about this NPC that we are encountering. So let's learn more about this thug. Start to flesh this person out. We'll start off with an occupation for the thug. 17. They're an engineer. Okay. Gender for that. There might still have been female engineers out there. Evening, Jester. Yeah, thanks for the birthday wishes. And the main reason I'm not out celebrating is, well, there's part of that I would rather be home, but also my birthday being in the middle of the week anyway, there's really not much I can do on Wednesday night to begin with. Plus Wednesday is a scheduled stream night on the channel anyway. So right now we're just rolling. In case I don't know how long you've been around, but we're rolling for this new engineer who's already assaulted Silas, as we're starting to look into bodies going missing from the local graveyard. Okay, so we've got a female engineer. And let's see. Possibly. Let's roll up a key. Let's give her a keyword as well. Just got here a few minutes ago. All good. All good, Jester. Thanks for stopping by and spending part of your Wednesday night here as we celebrate H.P. Lovecraft's and yes, my birthday as well. So let's get a keyword modifier to see what we can figure out about this thug. Let's see. 10 is an artistic female engineer thug. Okay, that seems a little bit out there. Given that we're coming in, that she's attacking us, we're already hostile. So we've definitely got a generic block here for criminal thug that we're going for. So we're being attacked by this thug, which means our goal is probably should be to get her under something resembling control. So let's see what we've got here toward that end. I think what we're going to have to do here is basically fight this. Is we're going to have to fight an unarmed combat against this thug. So dexterity is 50 for us, which means she's actually going to be attacking first. So she doesn't have any damage bonus, which means we're rolling. This is going to end up being a short adventure if we're already under attack. Which means she's really wanting to keep the hammer down on us here. So we're going to start rolling for attacks right off the bat with this thug. If we get to a point where we get her subdued, then we'll have to generate an NPC for her. But we're going to stick with a generic stat block for her. So we're going to have round one of combat. Let's see, I'm trying to remember how attacks work in how combat works. Fortunately I've got my Call of Cthulhu rulebook in here, which means I can find that. Okay, here we go. I should be able to find that easily enough. Thank God the Keeper rulebook's got a well laid out table of contents, so I can actually find, here's what you actually need. So we are going to be fighting here just unarmed. So to initiate the attack, she's already jumped. We're going to say she's already got the jump on us here, which means she will roll a brawling roll to try to attack us. And she's got a 50% on brawling. That's an 82, so she's going to fail that pretty badly, which means now we get to try to fight back against her, trying to get her under control. And we're going to go for a brawling roll as well. This could be problematic. I guess we weren't counting on getting into any kind of combat with Silas. So he's got a 25 on brawling. That's going to be even worse. A 76 is not going to work at all for that, which means we're just going to be rolling a series of attacks until one of us gets something under control here. So she's rolling 50 again. That's a 28, so that is a success. We'll roll our dodge to see if we can actually get away from the attack. Half dex is 50, so another 25. And 60 will reroll the 1s. Okay, that bumped into a 38, but that's still going to be a fail. So we are taking damage on this. She's got a D4 for a switchblade. So we're taking D4 damage from that, from this switchblade attack. We're already taking 2 points of damage, which brings our HP. And I've got several of these dials that I'm using. I bought them for other games, but they actually work for my role-playing very nicely for Call of Cthulhu. So we're already down to 11 health from a switchblade attack. So during this combat, we're actually going to try... I'm going to see if we can... Well, this is actually pretty bad. Let's try an intimidate roll to try to chase her off. Although... Yeah, so let's go with another combat roll, another brawl roll for us. Or I'm still deciding what I want to do here because we've already gotten jumped by this. We've already gotten jumped by this engineer, and now we need to figure out what we're doing to try to get out of this combat or try to get her under control. Given that she's very much she seems to be swing first, ask questions later, I think we're just going to have to go with that. So we're going to stick with brawling, and that's I believe double, when you're making a skill check, I believe double the test is going to be some kind of crit fail. Let me double check that, though. We could try to push the roll here, but let's see. Combine skill rolls. That's not what I'm after here. It has been a while since I played Call of Cthulhu, so advance apologies if things are a little bit slow here. There's probably a section about skill rolls. Chases, playing the game, perception rolls. Let's see if there's a separate section in here to explain how skill rolls actually work. Maybe there's something in an index about it. Spells. Skills. Skill roll. Let's try there. 135, 36. Just examples of skills that we'd want to test. Not completely what I'm after, but we're not totally dead to that either. Although we do have problems on... Okay, so fumble, the roll is a 100. Okay. If the roll required for success is less than 50. Okay. So the only rolls are 100 or 96 if it's very low. So we've already taken our 2 points of damage. And actually that was our fight roll. So we fail that. Now she's getting another fight roll on us with another brawl roll. Which that's a 52, so that's just barely going to be a fail for her. We need to try something different. Let's see if we can try to dodge and basically try to get the hell out of dodge here. Because things are going to go sideways if we keep trying to fight her very quickly. That's a 36, so unfortunately we're not able to escape the combat there. Which means she gets another roll. The question now becomes, why is she trying so hard to get us out of this? She's trying very hard to get this, to basically get us off the case. But she's going to brawl again with us. That's actually going to be a hard success. So I think what we're going to rule with that. So let's see if let's roll a dodge roll anyway to see if we can do anything about that hard success. We'd have to get probably an extreme dodge success. Which actually that is an extreme dodge success. So we're going to actually get away. We're actually going to get away from her and be able to shake somewhat loose. So now we probably go into a chase sequence, I think trying to get away from being attacked already in the office. So basically we need to get the hell out of here at this point. So, chase round. So I think that's our plan, is we're going to try to barricade. We're going to try to barricade her. We're actually going to break for the door at this point. So I need speed rolls. Speed. You're not kidding. This is going really badly right off the bat. So so far all we've discovered is that bodies are going missing from the graveyard, and there's a thug out here attacking us already. If the fleeing character's move value. Okay, so move is how do we calculate move value? Makes a constitution roll to test physical condition and endurance. So we are going to make a constitution roll to see if that 2 damage did anything to us. Constitution roll is a 70. That's a 7. That would be an extreme success, so we're very much fine from the 2 damage we took. Maybe the switchblade probably just grazed enough to draw a little blood, but nothing happening there. So really no effect from that, which means now we're back to the problem of being able to get out of here. So the pursuer, let's see, her speed, how do we calculate we still have to figure out how we calculate their speed. So that's probably based on move value and generating investigators. Let me look here. Those things with knives are supposed to be easy fights. Well, let's bear in mind that she did get the jump on us in this one. Let's see, movement, here we go. So if both dex and strength are equal to each other, dex and strength are not equal to each other. Strength is, so if either strength or dex is greater than size, strength is greater than size, which means he's got a movement value of 8. And then for the thug, since we went with the generic stack, if both dex and strength are less than size, which they weren't, so for us, dex and strength are equal to size. So if either strength, so actually, wait a minute, both dex and strength are less than size, which they both were for him. Actually, if either strength or dex is equal to or greater than size, strength is greater, so move 8. As for our thug, if all 3 are equal, she's also got a move of 8. So now we've got a chase on our hands, which means we've got equal speed. So basically, we're breaking for the door now, and she's coming after us. So adjusts each move. A vehicle's speed depends on a driver's skill. Makes a constitution roll to test physical condition and endurance. So we've got a chase round. We've got chase round 1 coming up. So I'm going to roll the brown dice for Silas, the blue and gold dice for our thug. So we're making constitution rolls. The thug is a 45, mine is a 70. Okay, so neither of us. So we both fail our first constitution rolls, although I could spend. I'm not going to worry about spending 8 luck right now to make that better for us. So we're going to roll for. I'm actually going to track wins on the chase rolls. So chase, Silas Miller, and the thug. So the first one to 3, the first character to 3 wins on the chase roll is going to win the chase sequence. So in our case, we're trying to get away from this thug. This thug is trying to catch back up to us and re-engage in melee combat. Okay, that's a 30. Actually, so we both pass. So we both pass our constitution rolls. I'm waiting for a win here in this case, so where one of us fails. So essentially, we both pass, so no ground made up. Round 3. Let's see, that's a 30 and a 64. So now we're actually starting to pick up a little bit of breathing room. So here's round 4 coming up on the chase sequence. She will pick up a win there, making up a little bit of ground. So round 5 coming up. No progress there as we both fail our rolls. So we've got another round coming up. That's an extreme success. That's a hard success for us. So I'm going to call that 2 successes essentially on that, which means we do manage to shake loose of her. So we managed to duck down an aisle or duck down an alley and get hidden in some garbage cans, peeking out just enough to see her go running by us, taking off in the direction that we took off in. So all we know right now is that we're under attack by this thug, but we still don't know anything about why we're under attack. Just had to take a quick drink of Crystal Light there. So I think that's probably where our first entry is going to end, with that chase sequence. So let's make another story direction roll here. We're still going to have a mythos value of 0, and I'm actually going to grab one more dial so I can track with our mythos value. Okay. And I'm not going to adjust the mythos value on that sequence, because person with a knife coming in is not necessarily related to the mythos inherently. Probably a good sequence mainly because we got away, I think. And we're not just totally hosed yet, although we did take a small knife attack. So now we know a thug's after us, but we don't know why yet. So let's see what direction we get on this one. And since we don't have a mythos value, we're not adding anything to our D100 roll here. Let's see, that's a 7, so we've got downtime coming up. So downtime. The question now is, are we disturbed? And since we didn't take downtime voluntarily, we don't have to worry about adding 10 to this next roll to see if we are disturbed. That is a 6. We are very much undisturbed. So now this is probably a time to head over to... I think now at this point would be a good time to head over to the... I think now would be a good time to head over to the graveyard in Easttown and maybe see a little bit what's going on since it's still daylight out, is what we're going to go with here. Since it's still daylight, we're going to go walking around Arkham and just go over to the graveyard. So it'll probably take us about half an hour. Let's say it's about noon when we get over to the graveyard. And we walk into the graveyard, and we do see a bunch of graves being exhumed. Next question that we're going to ask is there anybody here? Given that it's during the day, I'm going to call it unlikely that there's anybody here. So I'm going to subtract 20 from this D100 roll. $53 minus 20 is 33, so nobody here. Okay, so there's nobody here. What we see when we get into this graveyard is it's a pretty typical graveyard where we notice that it's a typical graveyard. You'd see all the gravestones and all of that. So we go up and inspect a few of these graveyards, and inspect a few of these graves. I'm going to make a spot hidden roll to see if we notice anything on any of these graves. He's got a spot hidden of a 60. That's an 89, so we fail. So on closer inspection of the graves, we go around inspecting a few of the graveyards, but we go around inspecting a few of the graves, but we don't see anything on a spot hidden check. But as we're looking around the graveyard, I'm just making some notes here so I can journal later if I need to. But as we walk around the graveyard, what we can see is some... I'll try to stop by and catch you a little bit later, Jester. Thanks for stopping by for at least a little bit tonight. So as we're exploring this graveyard, we can very obviously see what look like some graves that have been dug up. When I was doing the spot hidden check earlier, I was looking to see if there was going to be anything not as obvious. Like I'm looking for something like maybe a manuscript in one of the caskets, or like hidden sigils, something like that. So there's nothing like that we found, but we do see that very obviously we do see some very obviously dug up graves, almost like they're being almost like one of these graves was started and maybe daylight broke before they had a chance to finish. So maybe something like that. But I'm going to roll a listen check here to see if... I'm going to roll a quick listen check here just to see if we hear anything while we're in the graveyard. His listen is a 20. That's a 37. I could spend 17 luck, but that seems a little bit much. So I think we're going to call that a fail check. So we fail. Question is, what do we hear? Actually, what happens? So let's make a roll on the verb table to see what we might hear. So to roll on the verbs table, we're going to get a... Let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to take a D6 and a D100. One is basically I'm going to take the D6 minus 1. 6 will be a reroll on the verbs table. Let's see if I can get an idea of what we want to have happen on the verbs table since we did fail. Okay, we'll reroll the 6. Reroll the 6 again. A 2 is going to be 198. 198 is endorse. So we failed a listen check, which means something is probably about to happen to us. And I'm not sure endorse makes sense for that, so I'm going to roll again. I'm going to get something that makes sense. So that's going to be 139. 139 is decline. Okay, we can probably work with that. So let's see, decline. So how do I want to work with that in the context of this story that we're watching develop? Well, actually, given that we failed the listen check, we probably wouldn't hear anything. So I'm just going to go with that we fail, and we find that there are bodies being exhumed, but we still don't know that are being moved around, but we still have no idea about... But we still really have no idea about why they're being moved around. I was hoping maybe a spot hidden or a listen roll would let me hear something about that. So actually, let's put a question to the Oracle of We know graves are being dug up. Do we see, as we're looking around the graveyard, do we see any caskets out? And given that we're in a graveyard, I'm going to call that likely that maybe there are some caskets out here that are either in the process of being buried or being moved around. So I'm going to call this so I'm going to put a likely on this and add a 20 to this roll. That's a 67 plus 20 is 87. So yes, as we're looking around the graveyard, we're not hearing anything. We're kind of oblivious to what's going on. As we continue to look around, we do notice that there are some caskets that are still laid out in the open. Caskets in the open. So now what I want to roll for here, let's see, I'm looking here, is I guess what I want to know is, as we look at these caskets, are we able to see anything? So I think here we're going to try again on spot hidden on some of these open caskets. Or some of these, they're not necessarily open caskets, they're more like caskets in the open. Spot hidden. I do want to draw a distinction there that we're looking at caskets in the open, not necessarily open caskets yet. So we're going to roll for a spot hidden check on some of these caskets in the open. Okay, that's a 32. So that's a check we pass. And on one of them, we do see signs that look like this casket's one that looked like it was recently dug up. We can see, as we look around the casket, we do see where it looks like there's been dirt, where it looks like there was dirt in here, so it looks like it was one that was in the ground for a while. But the question with this one, with this casket that we see, is it open? So now here's one where we're wondering about, okay, is the casket open? And I'm going to say a 50-50 on this one. That's a 76, so yes, this casket is open. So we're going to open the casket. And do we notice... So the question we're going to ask now is it empty? So we open the casket, is it empty? That's a 29, no. So there's something inside this casket. Now the question is what? And I think this is a time for my new keywords table. So just like I was doing with the verbs table, this is a table that ChatGPT generated for me. So I'm going to roll this as a D3 and D100 roll. So I'm going to take the D6, but this time I'm going to divide it by 2. So I'm going to divide it by 2 and round down. Actually round up. So 1 to 2 will be 1, 3 to 4 will be 2, 5 to 6, 3. Let's see, so that's 390. Actually, that would be... No, that would be I would be rounding down. So in this case, that's 290. 290 lantern bearer. So maybe as we're looking in this open casket, we see a lantern of some kind. I guess another question I should ask is there still a body in here? Lantern in casket. Is the body in here too? That's a 91, so yes, the body is still in here as well. So now it becomes a question of was this person about to be moved since we see it's probably a case of this person was especially attached to this lantern for whatever reason. We obviously don't know why from a previous life. But we can tell as we're looking in there, the body's still in there, but we're not sure if the body's been moved or not. We know the casket has recently been dug up, like this body was intending to be moved. So if it was in the ground for a while, it's probably just bones at this point. So maybe whatever's going on here, maybe they decided that this body wasn't all that useful for us, for their purposes, so they just left the person here and didn't bother putting them back in the ground. So now we see that it's happening at least, which is something. So our friend is clearly wasn't completely out to lunch on that one. But here I'm going to roll another listen check just to see if we hear anything. So our listen once again is a 20. Which that's a 43, so we fail that listen check. Which means here I'm going to make a luck check. And the reason I'm going to make a luck check here is I want to see if anything else is going to end up happening to us. So our luck in this case is a 60. That's a 67, and unfortunately we can't spend luck to manipulate luck checks, so we are going to fail that luck check. The question is, oh, for crying out loud. So that's a 67, which means we do fail that luck check. Since luck is not riding with us, where do I want to go with that? So on a luck check, so we fail the luck check, which means something's going to happen to us. So here I'm going to roll so we failed the listen check to hear anything. Luck check failed, which means something's going to happen. Something's going to happen to us. And I think here we maybe get attacked by a shovel. And given that we don't see it coming, we're going to probably take this one right to the back of the dome. Now I want to figure out how much damage we take from that. Given that we're basically left defenseless, so essentially picture us leaning over this casket, trying to figure out what's going on with this. Trying to figure out what's going on here. We're essentially being left completely vulnerable. And now we're about to take a shovel to the back of the head. And now I just have to figure out how much damage that's going to do to us. I'm trying to find if there's like a typical items table where we can say, where there's a standard of, let's see, investigator sheet. Let's go to weapons on that. That'll probably be our best bet. 401 FF. Assault rifles. Okay, this is not completely what I want. Let's see. So I'm probably going to have to make this up on the fly from the looks of it. That's modern day medical equipment, outdoor and travel gear. Of course, it doesn't give us an option to buy a shovel, so I'm going to call this D8. I'm going to call this D8 damage that we'd be taking. Actually, at least D8 damage. Yeah, D8 damage is fine. 1 point of damage. So we're not... So 1 point of damage. From a shovel attack. Which tells me the person isn't... Which tells me whoever's wielding the shovel isn't very strong. So they're not able to do a lot of damage to us. So after we get hit by the shovel, we're a little bit disoriented, but we turn around. The question is it the same thug that we encountered earlier? Uh, 19, no. So this is a different thug that we're dealing with from earlier. No. So whoever these people are, they're definitely attack first, ask questions later. So definitely attack first, ask questions later. We are going to have to try to get away from them. Try to get away from this one again. So we've got a new thug coming in. So let's roll for this one. So thug number 2. This one, 34. This one's a warden, maybe like a jail warden, perhaps. 44, another female. And our keyword modifier here, 22, practical. So probably just reached for the closest thing she could find, which in a graveyard, shovel seems a logical thing to go for. So now we know that she is armed with a shovel. So at least we've got that. That's going to be a fighting... I'm not sure that's a... We'll go with brawl for that. And once again, based on dex, she will get the first action. So a 30 for her attack. That's a 69. She will fail that. And then I will try again with my brawl attack. Actually, we're going to go for a dodge roll to try to get out of here again. So a 25 on that. That is a 19, so we will succeed to dodge her, and then we're going to go into another chase sequence to try to get out of here. So the same rules as we have before. Now we need to determine her move. We need to determine her movement modifier. And I just had it earlier. Here we go. Her move this time is a... So we're looking at strength is equal to, or is actually, if both dex and strength are each less than size. Strength and dex are not less than size. Strength or dex is equal to or greater than size. Strength is equal to size, so she's got a move of 8. Which means we've got another chase sequence to try to get out of here. And I need to find my chase sequence once again. I had it when I needed it earlier, and now that I need it again, that's converting to 7th edition rules. That's not completely what I want. So I think the goal here in this chase sequence is going to be to try to get out of here. So yeah, we're going to try to escape back to the office again. And we've got 133. Here we are. Okay, so adjust the move. Okay. Alright, so we'll take a Constitution roll. We took a shot to the head even though it wasn't very hard. So we're going to roll a Constitution roll for both of us to determine our effects. We're going to take a -5 Constitution penalty from getting hit in the head with a shovel. Even though it wasn't very hard, that's an extreme success, so no problems there. This warden is at full strength, so nothing happening there, which means we've got no problems there. So if their adjusted move is higher. Okay, so yeah, we're trying to get away from this at this point. So yeah, we're going to have an action roll. We're going to start one space ahead of the. We're essentially going to start one space ahead of the chaser. So we're going to make a pair of Constitution rolls. Now we're going to have our Constitution go back up to normal. So a 70 against a 60 this time. That's an 83 to a 78. Nothing happening there. So we'll roll again. 29 to a 51. So we have that's actually a hard success for us. So we pick up some ground. And once again, we'll go first to 3 escapes. So the warden, and because of a hard success, we'll pick up 2. To the warden actually succeeding, so that'll be 1 success. Yep. And we will pick up another success, which means we will actually duck into another alley, lose the thug, and then we'll go over, and then we'll duck into a different alley than where we lost the first thug. The warden will then scoot by, and we'll escape. So we're going to take one more. So that's a mythos value 0. We're going to take story direction 3. This time we are voluntarily going to take downtime. Because here I want to try to wrap the story up for tonight. So since we are voluntarily taking downtime, we will have to add 10 to this roll to see if we're disturbed or not. That's a 40 plus 10 is 50. We are undisturbed. So we've got a lot to discover about this story, but we're going to wrap it up here and come back to that at a later point. So that'll do it for this playthrough of Call of Cthulhu. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this admittedly kind of short stream where I wanted to do more, but we at least have discovered some of our story, where we've discovered that we've got these thugs, that we've got a group of people digging up bodies. We don't know anything about why they're digging them up. So I think we're going to heal the 2 HP that we took back up to full when we get into the next session of Call of Cthulhu. So I do enjoy this game, especially watching the story unfold like it is here. Definitely want to do more with Call of Cthulhu, including potentially running games of Call of Cthulhu in the future. But I'm kind of rambling on that a little bit, so let's go ahead and wrap this stream up. Tomorrow evening, we'll be back to the 2009-10 hockey season replay, as we will be at Capital One Arena, I believe it is. Let me double check the arena. Yep, Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. As the Tampa Bay Lightning will be playing the Washington Capitals in Inside the Crease Hockey. Saturday, Mystical Munchies will continue out of the Recipes from the World of H.P. Lovecraft cookbook as we make the dessert, Meteor Cakes. Sunday, the 2025 Summer of Lovecraft is now coming down to all the marbles as we are playing Elder Sign against Yogg-Sothoth. Because we lost in Arkham 2nd Edition, we are starting down 1-1 for Elder Sign. As for next week, we're going to have our last Wednesday game on the channel for the month of August, as we are playing another adventure book game. This time we're playing The House on Sentinel Hill. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, Take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care, everyone.